All right. We'll call this Cannon Falls City Council to opening and roll call. Abady,
Present.
Eltoff. Here. Carpenter.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
Mattson here. Robinson is not. With that, we'll stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's kind of scary to see all those people out there. I'm just temporary. I'm just filling in. Okay. I need approval of the agenda.
So, second.
Okay, so we got, like I said, Duncan and Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Morris, would it be helpful if I took the, who
I'm
does?
just writing them down, but yes.
Oh, right, I
would
can do that.
help.
Okay.
Do some-
You got enough on your plate. I don't need any paper. I got a computer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's 2018.
Okay, under public input, citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments must pertain to city business and adhere to data privacy rules. No employee's name may be used. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Do we have anybody here tonight that wants to speak on anything that's not on the agenda? Do we hear anybody not wanting to speak? I mean, not, everybody wants to get out of this. Okay, with that, we will go to proclamation.
Good evening, Council. As you know, may or may not know, this week is National Police Week, which is started Sunday the 13th and will end on the 19th. Our department has been fortunate to not have lost an officer in the line of duty. However, we have had an officer that worked for our agency that moved on that was struck and killed by a drunk driver. This is something as a department that we hope never have to deal with. But it's important to understand that any day that can change because of the dangers that officers face. In 2017, 135 officers in the nation paid the ultimate sacrifice, 46 of those to gunfire. One of those was a Minnesota officer, William Matthews, who was a former Zumbrota police officer. He was killed by vehicular assault by an impaired and distracted driver. He died at the age of 47. Thanks to many organizations, his wife Shawn and son Wyatt have traveled to Washington, D.C. to see Bill's name get put on the National Police Memorial Wall. So far in 2018, 53 officer deaths have occurred, 27 of those from gunfire. I would like to thank you for allowing me to take this time. I ask that we take a moment of silence for those fallen officers before the council will read the proclamation.
Okay, City of Cannon Falls, proclamation of the National Police Week 2018. Whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the City of Cannon Falls Police Department. Whereas nearly 60,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 16,000 injuries. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, more than 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty. Whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Whereas 360 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 129 officers killed in 2017 and 231 officers killed in previous years. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 30th anniversary candlelight vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2018. Whereas the candlelight vigil on May 13, 2018 is part of the National Police Week, which takes place this year, May 13th through 19th, 2018. Whereas May 15th, 2018 was designated as Police Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags were to be flown at half-staff. Therefore, be it resolved, the City of Cannon Falls City Council formally designates May 13th to the 19th, 2018 as Police Week in Cannon Falls and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in the community and in communities across the nation. Okay, do I have
So move. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, adopted by the City Council of Cannon Falls this 15th day of May 2018. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Council, and we'll move on. Tonight, I would like to present to you our newest hire officer, Tom Rambolt. We do this presentation as an official introduction to the citizens of Cannon Falls, but also as a rite of passage for an officer. Although Officer Rambolt has a full field training program ahead of him, I know that he can succeed because I have seen his compassion and his patience as a reserve officer for the city of Cannon Falls. Tom, I'd like you to come forward at this time. Tom, this is your day to shine. Do not tarnish what you have accomplished by losing sight of who you are when you don your uniform. What you have chosen to do is a mission, a calling no less, as guardians of public safety. Do not take the tasks inherent in this noble and distinguished undertaking lightly. Abide by the golden rule to always treat those you are called to assist as you would wish to be treated, and just as well treat the subjects of your calls as you would want your family to be treated, and offer them the same protections you would tender to your own flesh and blood. I hope you can follow our mission statement, which is to provide quality police service to our community by promoting meaningful police-citizen interaction and community partnerships with emphasis on problem solving, actively responding to community concerns, and public education. We commit to the values of integrity, impartiality, and professionalism in the performance of our duties. I present to you Officer Tom Rambolt, if you'd want to come down and do the swearing in. Stand over here.
Raise your hand, yes. I state your name,
I, Thomas Rambold,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota.
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota.
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties
and perform all the duties
of police officer of the Cannon Falls Police Department. Police officer of the Cannon Falls Police Department.
officer of the Cannon Falls Police Department
To the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God. Thank you.
Pinning Tom's badge this evening is his brother Ben.
Congratulations, welcome.
Congratulations again.
Next on the agenda, one of the things that Chief McCormick did after coming to Cannon Falls was implementation of a recognition program with the police department. And that was to formalize the process of recognizing both department employees and those that provide assistance to the department. We are proud of the actions of the officers and citizens previously recognized, and we are very pleased again to be coming before the council to recognize 5 members of the fire department, 3 members of the ambulance service, and 17 citizens and 1 police officer for their actions in saving life. On Monday, April 2nd, 2018, Peggy Jandris and other staff were in the RTI room at the Cannon Falls Elementary School talking when Peggy slumped over and fell to the ground. At 10:47 a.m., the first of 2 911 calls came into the Goodhue County Dispatch.
Goodhue County 911. Hi, we need an ambulance at the elementary school. Cannon Falls Elementary School. Okay. We have a teacher who is laying on the floor. Did she pass out? Yes. She passed out. Door C. Come in door C. Okay, is the person breathing and conscious? Is she breathing? Breathing but not conscious? No. She's not breathing? Okay, we're going to start CPR. She's not breathing. Okay, sounds good. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
Who made that phone call? Wow. I gotta admit, when I first was like, oh, I'm gonna listen to the 911 call, I expected somebody just in a panic and not knowing what to say, but wow. Calm and collected. The activation of the 911, at 10:49 was the Canton Falls ambulance was paged. Officer Paul Larsen heard that page and responded directly to the school, and he arrived at 10:52. The activation of the 911 system and the Code Blue team, which is what the school calls their emergency response, was virtually simultaneous. Chrissy Nelson is the one that called 911 and then started chest compressions. Sue Samuelson began giving breaths even before a breathing mask arrived. Cassidy Kohlenhofer cleared the area around Peggy of the tables and chairs so there was room for rescue efforts. The Code Blue team had been created to respond to medical emergencies within the school and knew to bring the AED as a course of their response. When Officer Larsen arrived, he found that the school had activated the team and they were working to attach an AED. Officer Larsen checked for a pulse and was unable to find one. He took over chest compressions at that time. Once the AED was connected, it advised to shock, and 1 shock was administered. While all of this was occurring, other school staff was making sure that the entrances had someone at them to direct the ambulance to the correct door. They kept the hallway and area free of students because school was still in session. The Cannon Falls Fire Rescue Department arrived on scene at 10:54 with Nick King, Mitch Myers, Chris Wigman, Captain Greg Heppola, and Chief Mike Altoff. Fire Rescue took over patient care along with a nurse that was on scene, Angela Retzikel. The ambulance arrived at 10:55, and with Brenda Voshalik, Chris Thompson, and Chief Tim Melchow, ambulance took over patient care and administered life-saving measures. Shortly after that, Peggy regained a pulse while still in the school and started breathing on her own. She was able to open her eyes and track movement. She was then transported to the hospital by the ambulance. That day, Peggy's life was saved by the actions of individuals who were working as a team with a single purpose to save a life, and they did. If the participants of the event would please come and stand to my right or this side of the room. Let's give them a round of applause, huh? You will stand right there. You will stand right there. The firefighters will be receiving life-saving pins at their year-end banquet. Thank you to them, as they need to leave for fire training apparently this evening. But you should know that the Fire Relief Association has just donated money to the schools to purchase more AEDs. And I'm pretty sure that was in the plan even before this, so thank you to them for that. The first award I'm going to give is to Officer Paul Larsen, so that he can then help me hand out some awards here. This is the life-saving award that we will be presenting. He will also have a pin that he will be able to wear on his uniform to show his life-saving efforts. So, thank you, Paul. So when I call your name, please just come forward. I'll hand you a plaque, and then you can stand in front of the council so we can take a picture quickly before we depart. Jennifer Chappie. Janae Blakesley. Candace Thielen. Chrissy Nelson.
Okay.
Molly Walrick.
Not here? Okay.
Angie Retzikel. Cassidy Kohlenhofer.
Not here?
Ross Peterson.
Not here.
Corey Nemechek. Sheila Lawless. Pam Wolf. Lori Jackson. Ellen McNerlin. Katie Zuzek. Sam Samuelson. Phyllis Olta. Beth Geese. Can we make 2 rows for a picture in front of the council? Come on.
But I didn't get to hug the person that hurt me the most.
I think it's great.
Scoot?
They did a great job.
All right, thank you very much.
What a great job they did. Training came through big time. Very proud. We'll let them leave first. Then we'll start.
I especially want to thank Peggy and your family for coming tonight. That was moving. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us.
Very nice. A lot going on tonight. Great to see.
Very good.
Yes. Okay, so now we're going to have public hearings on Resolution 2351, establish a license fee for combination liquor license. David?
As required by our city code, when we establish a new license fee applicable to a new license, we're required to hold a public hearing. So we have published notice in the Beacon of tonight's hearing. And if you recall, this pertains back or goes back to the combination on-sale, off-sale license that we amended the code for to allow Artisan Plaza to have a limited off-sale license operating out of Artisan Plaza. So tonight, the public hearing pertains to the establishment of a fee, and if you look at Resolution 2351, I can cut to the chase and just let you know that within the license amounts that are shown there, there has been a $200 addition to our current license for on- and off-sale licensing. We've added $200, which is the same fee as what the off-sale liquor stores would pay for their license. So it's the same fee. I believe it's acceptable to David Olson. We expect he'll be an applicant for this particular license, but it is required to hold a public hearing tonight.
Okay, we'll have the public hearing at this time. Do we have any?
I think you're supposed to say,
Oh,
are there
oops.
any members of the public who would
Yeah.
like?
Right. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this? Are there any members of the public that wishes to speak on this? Are there any members of the public that wishes to speak on this? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to close the public meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Okay, now, do we have any discussion ourselves? Anybody has anything?
I think we've beat this dead horse enough.
So do I.
Yeah.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 2351.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Okay, with that, can I see yours? My thing went screwy. Okay, the second one is a Resolution 2354, vacating platted alleyways, formerly in the St. Clair's Terre Haute Edition and Goodhue Edition. Sam?
Yeah, thank you. This request is coming from Mr. Babe O'Gorman. As some of you may know, he is replatting, reconfiguring some of the lots that he owns just across the railroad tracks from the city hall here. And one of the stipulations is that he would like to have private roadways there. The Planning Commission heard this request last night, and that preliminary plat and everything will be coming at the next city council meeting. But right now, we're looking to vacate all of the platted alleyways in the St. Clair's Terre Haute Edition and the Goodhue Edition. All of these were platted in the 1800s, so they're just not feasible. They're just not usable as they're platted anymore. So we're just looking for vacation of those so we can replat alleys that will be used.
So the planning commission unanimously recommends this
Yeah.
course, I imagine?
The planning commission met last night and unanimously approved vacating those alleys.
I make a motion to approve vacating the alleys.
I'll second that.
Second.
Do we have public hearing first before
Oh,
we?
there, that was
Okay.
public hearings.
I'm sorry.
And I wish to speak.
Go ahead.
So that we're on the same page, Samantha.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the entire, because the
Correct.
the alleyway behind the car wash is basically used as their parking lot and entranceway, so we do not want to vacate that.
Correct. Yep, and
Right,
in
right.
the legal description that is coming, it's all as he has specified, so we're good.
So there you, now you have to call
Anybody
for-
else have any questions or to do with this? Anybody else want to speak on this? Hearing none? Make a motion to close the,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any discussion ourselves?
I make a motion to, I'm sorry if it's premature, but I think we're good. I make a motion to follow the planning commission's recommendation and vacate the specifically recommended alleyways, not all of the alleyways, but
Right.
to vacate them as per the recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes. Okay, what's next? My computer.
Council agenda.
Okay. Consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be adopted, or they may be removed and placed in business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. A, just and correct claims accounting period ending May 10th, 2018. Meeting minutes for May 1st, 2018 City Council meeting. C, Police Commission appointments. D, hire pool employees for 2018 season. E, Resolution 2348, accepting donation of $50 for marina trail sales to the fire department. Resolution 2349, exception of the donation of $50 from Margaret McMahon to the fire department. Is there another page? Oh, okay. Resolution 2350, accepting donation of $2,500 from the Cannon Falls Fire Department Relief Association to the fire department. Temporary asset transfer to the ambulance department. Support application to the Blandon Broadband Communities Program. Job title change, pay grade adjustment for Diane Howard. Committee member appointments. Approve municipal advisory service agreement with Northland Securities for the new fire truck. Do I hear anything that wants to be called down?
I like to call C and I.
C and I, anybody else? Let me get this for a second. Anybody else?
I'm fine.
Okay. So, this will go down to C. Well, C will be C under council business, and I will be D.
Okay.
Okay? Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of items C and I.
Right.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No? Okay. So with that, the next is what, John? Mine just gave out. Okay, the Historical Society. See if I can.
I'll leave it there.
Good evening, Council. Steve Dablo, lifetime resident, Cannon Falls, President Emeritus of the Historical Society right now. I think you've got some information about what we're about right now. We have been in the same building since 1979, but we have been receiving collections. We believe that we're chartered to collect, preserve, and share the history of Cannon Falls. So you can imagine what 40 years of collecting has done for us. And we're lucky to have the building that we're in. The building is special. We get very high review statements from people that have come to visit in town, out of town, and we believe that the building has a lot to do with that. But we've been looking for alternatives for a number of years. I've been in dialogue with Dave on some stuff. Not exactly sure which way to go, whether we look for another building. We don't want to leave this building. Do we add on to this building? It's special. We believe the building itself is part of a collection that shouldn't be touched. And so we now have an opportunity to purchase the house that's immediately to our west, the Janice O'Brien house, and the family is interested in selling it to us. In discussion with a number of people, including Dave, it is believed that the best thing is for the city to own that property along with the current building, because the city owns the building that we're in, and the two will be in conjunction with each other. We'll be able to use the building immediately. We have parts of our collection spread around town that can be moved into the garage. We have administrative file cabinets and desks that can be moved over and then give us more room in the current museum for the collection. And then we have some delicate items, fabric and stuff that we need, larger storage area that's temperature controlled, air conditioned, heated, humidity controlled. So we're going to be using 100% of that area right away. It will not be used for display, but we do believe we have to put a ramp on there. So the proposal today, and what we're looking to do, is get the agreement for the city to own the building. That's number one. Number two, we're prepared to raise all the money that is necessary, plus some more. We're looking at doing windows on the current building. They're in very tough shape. Don Herkey's helping us with that, plus a few other things. But we also would really appreciate it if you guys bought the property, you know, or a part of it or participate in it. So we've already formed a fundraising subcommittee and worked up a list, and we think that we can raise the money. Dave, I think the decision in front of the council tonight, or the action that they need to think about or act on, would be that you would own the property. And again, we're committed to raise part or all of the money, whatever is necessary.
And we own the building it's in, the old firehouse.
Old firehouse.
Correct.
But that's on like the National Historic Register or whatever, and this house presumably is not.
Correct.
Right. Are there different ways that those types of parcels are treated when they're on city rolls? Just out of curiosity, I don't think there would be, I just didn't know.
No, tax exempt owner, tax exempt use
Yeah.
for property taxes, so.
And Steve, it's my, excuse me, my understanding that kind of do it like we did with the library, where you guys would raise the funds and then purchase the home in question, and then we as a city would take over and do the maintenance, and just like we would with any other city-owned.
Yeah, we look at it like the current building, where we do a lot of maintenance in the current building. I know a number of years ago, I think we got involved with redoing some of the tuck point on the brick. We've done some other stuff. We're hoping to be able to raise enough money in this fundraising attempt to replace the circuit board, which is an old panel with screw-in fuses, and we've had estimates on that. Where we benefit as a program is that you're paying for the heat and the lights and the air conditioning, and that can be a real burden to a small program like ours, and it can be difficult. But with the city owning the building that we're in and the property next to it, it always came back to that it would be unnatural for maybe a nonprofit if we were to buy the building ourselves and then maybe even hook it to with a breezeway was a term that was used, or something into the backside. We don't want to breach any of the walls in the current building, but there's a one-story area that's blocked behind there, and that goes actually into an administrative area. So when you start hooking buildings that are not owned together, I don't know where that goes, and stuff like that. But we don't see requesting the upkeep. I do know it's got a new roof on the house. Appraisal's been done and everything's up to date on the house, so we're not expecting any costs. We can use it immediately in the condition it's in. We don't want to be tearing down any walls in the house or making huge modifications in case this is the wrong direction and we want to reverse it 10 years from now, then we can put the house back on the market. So there's no adventurous ideas, although I have said publicly that maybe someday, and the O'Briens are aware of this and in support of it, is that maybe someday we'll move that house off of there and build a really nice addendum to our historical society, but probably not in my lifetime. I don't want to take that one on.
Does the Historical Society have the funds, or can it raise the funds to buy that building?
Yeah, we'd have to raise the funds. Paul didn't make it here tonight because of whatever reasons, but Paul and I have sat down together and we've already started talking to people. We got the first $1,000 donation. We've set the price of the house is $186,000. That was the appraisal. We visited with the O'Briens about purchasing the house for the appraised amount. They were willing to sell the house for the appraised amount. Paul and I put together a program where we're looking to maybe raise $120,000. Part of that would replace the circuit board. Part of that, we have a door in the front of the museum. Don Hernkey did the double doors, but there's a single door in the front of the museum that needs to be done. Then there's all the windows that are in very tough shape. We'd like to put a doorway in the west wall of the block, one-story addition for easy access to the administration. And we do believe we need to put a ramp on the front of the house for ADA purposes. So you add all of those needs up, we've got a goal of $220,000. After we looked at some of the library goals and the Mayo Clinic goal, this is not nearly the size of that, and we think we can raise it.
So you're going to raise the money, you're going to buy it, but you just said that you might change course and want to put it back on the market, but the city owns it.
Right, and I'm talking as the city, from the city's position. We were looking for the city to own it.
Right, I understand that
Yeah,
part.
and if
But
at
say
some
you decide
point-
you don't want to use it
But for
anymore.
our use, yes.
Right, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you don't want to use that house anymore, it's the wrong direction.
Yeah, I just.
So then it's vacant, the city would sell it. I don't
Yes.
see the Goodhue County recapturing its money unless there's an agreement, kind of an evergreen kind of agreement. So that would take
That'd be part
approval.
of the discussion. If
Yeah.
if the city were to sell it, what would they do with that money?
Right, so that would be a second sort of thing to look at.
Yeah, but not important tonight, although
Right.
it can be added to it, but I thank you for that, yeah. I just wanted to let people know that we don't want to get so far down that, that this is a reversible process. We think that's valuable, that it's reversible.
Well, I think it's a great idea. The Historical Society is so valuable. I know my family personally has had things on display, and there are some more permanent things there, and this is a no-brainer to me, as long as fundraising goes well, and the city can pay the lights and all that fun stuff, and
Is the current owner willing to sit on it and just sell it to you, or?
Yes, Janice wants us to have it, that her heart feels really strongly about making it work for us. There is a secondary issue that's already been resolved, and that is that some of the money from the sale of the house is going to help her adult children buy a house in the community. And so there's a little bridge that needs to be done, but that's already been worked out. So the cash flow process is handled on that, and so we could close, in July or August or whenever the fundraising is complete on it. We have, starry visions of raising the money by the end of June, but we don't know. Again, we're going way past the cost of the house.
I guess I'm a little bit confused. So is the city fronting the money, or is it just you're paying in installments over time?
It could go both ways, and that's the confusing part of where we're here. The main thing that we're looking for is that the city agree to own the property. And when we close on it is going to be determined on how much money gets raised at what point in time. And if the city participates in the funding of it or not. The end result is the city will own the property, and we'll take care of it and use it like we are the current building. But the actual closing on that may be, down the road. And so the closing is not what's imminent. We have to come up with some money to help the O'Briens with closing on the other house, and we can do that without closing on this house.
Right,
Did I
we're gonna
answer it?
decide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion?
David, as far as the city, I mean, we could say that, yes, the city would buy it or not buy
Yeah,
it, but take ownership.
Yes, we can own it, and as we do the other building,
Right.
and there's a lot of pieces yet to come together, but the pieces that have come together, I feel pretty comfortable in terms of even coming to the council and talking about us purchasing the second building in a cooperative way with this group. There's still some details that have to be worked out, but I'm certainly hearing from a lot of others saying, this is a good project for the community, this can be done, there will be money raised. And as I've discussed this with Steve, it hasn't been along the basis of, boy, the city's ready and eager to buy this house on behalf of the Historical Society at any price. It's not that conversation, but there's going to be some bridge financing in order to make this deal work. And as Steve's talked about, the existing sellers are providing quite a bit of flexibility here, I think, to help make this work too. But there will be some exposure, financial exposure to the city. I don't think there's any question about that, unless the fundraising goes to the point where they reach their goal, they finance this entirely themselves in the next X months or year, and the city has no financial, involvement with the project. They take over maintenance. I mean,
And we may not have to close on it until all the money is,
Yeah.
so.
So what we're basically, you would like to hear from us tonight is the council going, yes, we agree with this in concept. Of course, we have to see all the,
Right.
Yes, that's, I think that's where we're at,
Right.
is in concept. And then, so there's two things. Number one, in concept with the ownership, and then the pleasure of participating with the purchase of the building. That's the salesman part of me.
Who insures these locations? Is that on city, like if I trip and fall, if someone trips and falls there, whose policy covers that?
Yeah, I'm not sure in terms of the financial transaction between the city's insurance and the relationship that we have with you. Do you know? Are you participating in the payment of the premium for the insurance? Is there any kind of agreement?
You talk liability on the
Yeah.
current building?
Yeah.
In working with the city administrators the past two, because when I got involved 10, 12 years ago, I was concerned about that. And it's part of the coverage for all the city-owned
Yeah,
buildings.
it's under our policy. I just question
Right.
if there's a cost share by them as kind of the tenant, if you will, of the building.
Right.
That I
and-
don't know.
And so my concern was on the contents, but then we got to the problem that the contents are priceless and you can't insure priceless. And they're only priceless because of their meaning to Cannon Falls. And so we have a liability policy so that
CGL, something like that?
we do have that, and we're
Okay.
paying for that. We felt
Are-
that was
Is
prudent.
the city like an additional insured?
I haven't seen that. Yeah,
We have not,
documents.
that discussion hasn't been had, but that's a
Okay.
good question.
Okay.
And here comes my number one fundraiser. For those that you know, Paul.
So we'll look into those insurance details
Okay.
if we're going to go ahead.
Yeah.
But I think that's the question, is the council generally in favor of the concept? If so, there's going to have to be some more work, obviously, to be done
Yeah.
by them and by us.
And that's as further as we need to go today, I think, is just,
I'm in favor of moving ahead with this.
yeah, I would make a motion that we move forward with this, subject to fundraising,
Yep.
all the paperwork.
and I'll be working with Dave, that's how I reached out for, trying to do the best way possible, so.
Okay. Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's a great thing.
Thank you.
Okay. The 2018 Street Improvement Project.
Somebody grab those lights for us? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Last Wednesday, we opened bids on the 2018 East Side 2 project. We had 3 bids, as you can see in the memo. The low bidder was Wenzel Construction from Owatonna. And just up on the screen, we're just showing the project here. You know, the base bid was Minnesota Street and the corresponding side streets. The bidding had 4 alternates with it. Alternate 1 was the mill and overlay of the block of Stoughton from Grove to Almond. Alternate 2 was the repair of approximately 400 feet of limestone road up in Woodridge Bluffs. Alternate 3 was the use of ductile iron water main on the project, and alternate 4 would have been the use of PVC water main, so we could kind of compare those numbers. The bids award, if the council moves ahead tonight, is based on the base bid only. So the first column in their letter, the total base bid amount. But we would need to award either alternate 3 or 4 at a minimum, because we need to put the new water main pipe in. Alternates 1 and 2 can be awarded at the council's discretion.
What did you decide up at the school there at the end of Minnesota Street? Did we?
We have a preliminary plan to do a cul-de-sac. I've shared that with the superintendent, and she's moving that on to her facility commission, or board. And when I hear back from them, likely in June, I'll bring that back to you. Plenty of time before we actually build the street part itself. But it would be a traditional size cul-de-sac right where you get to the edge of the parking lot, if you can picture that. So that block of Minnesota would be a dead end. The cul-de-sac itself would be flopped, if you will, to the south. They would lose 6 or 8 stalls in the parking lot. But then that cuts off their concern of vehicle traffic directly into the field house. And you would have anywhere from a 10 to a 15 or a 20-foot grass area between the street and their parking lot, if you will.
I would think the school would like that.
Yes, yes. I talked to her tonight before the meeting, and they did have it on a facility committee meeting earlier this month, but that meeting got postponed or didn't make the agenda. She assured me it'd have it on her June 1, and I said that'd be time. We'll bring it back to you and go through the formal process of putting in the cul-de-sac on the street at the council level, if everyone's on board.
Well, I like the fact that the bids came in fairly close to the estimates. I know there's always the question of, do we do with the ductile piping, or do we go with PVC? I'm personally always in favor of the ductile work, although that is a little more expensive, but I think and maybe you can touch on this,
Yeah.
Greg.
What do you think, Greg?
Well, the standard has been ductile. In 2013, East Side 2, which was basically Water Street and the cul-de-sacs here behind the ball fields, we did use PVC. My main concern with it is just not the lack of consistency with the different pipe material. Either one works fine. Cities use some, cities use the other. It's more of a preference than anything. But then in 2013, we did see a cost savings to go with the plastic water main. The council at that time chose to do that. So this would continue that neighborhood, or that area of the city would have plastic. So from a public works standpoint, there'd be some knowledge, okay, we know we've got plastic there. It'd also be part of the as-built maps where there's plastic water. And if you remember Mr. O'Gorman's project, he intends to use plastic water main too. So it comes really down to a choice. They both meet the standards for drinking water. It's really a preference. I do engineering in 5 cities. Only one of them uses plastic as the standard. The other 5 use ductile. You talk to contractors. The use of it in the metro is probably closer to 50-50. But it comes down to a preference of the city and the public works guys, you know, what they like and what.
Well, the West Side project was done with the cast, so.
We use ductile iron on both West Side projects, yes. And in 2016, the 2nd Street Cedar Hills, as well as the interchange work in 2001, that all had ductile water main in it.
Well, the question comes up with, when something goes wrong, it's my understanding with PVC versus ductile is PVC, if there's a crack, you gotta replace a whole big length of pipe, whereas with ductile, you can just fix that spot.
Yeah, a couple of the concerns with it is if the water main freezes, you can't thaw it out with traditional methods with using a welder and running a electric current through the pipe, which is rare. You run the concern of, issues with the houses. So that's not be able to be done with plastic water. And I've heard that when it does freeze, that has the possibility of shearing longitudinally along the pipe. So you end up, these are 20-foot lengths of pipe when they're put in. You end up having to open up that much street to fix it if it does break, where ductile and cast iron traditionally just shear horizontally in one spot. The repair is traditionally smaller. I have not known of any of the issues with the projects we've done since 2001, either in the ductile or in the PVC as far as a water main break on those mains. The service lines would be the same. They'd be copper from the pipe into the house with the curb stop. That material would be the same. It'd just be the pipe in the street that is the city's main to maintain would be the difference between the plastic and the ductile.
And are
The fittings are the same, the hydrants are the same, it's just the pipe.
the life of the different types, ductile versus PVC, is there a difference in lifespan?
I think the argument could be made that the plastic will last longer, but,
That's what I read.
ductile pipe's been going in the ground for 40-plus years now. Cast iron has been in the ground for 100 years in some places, so.
I was told by a
Not
contractor
yet.
that plastic, because you get different non-conforming with gravel and dirt, and that plastic would work better with the different kinds of materials in the ground that we've got up there, but.
It comes down to how well the contractor beds the pipe. Is he gonna do a job of getting material around the pipe and get it compacted so the pipe support is really gained from the side walls, even so on the plastic more so than the ductile. So if you just kinda don't get that compacted or you get a rock against the pipe, that's gonna cause a problem with either material. But it comes down to the contractor just diligently doing the backfill and compacting it and getting that pipe in a good bedded nest, if you will, and it's gonna be fine. Like I said, they've both been used for many, many years. It comes down to future tapping. If you had to have to dig the street up for a service, which in here, I don't know if we have too many empty lots where we would do that unless the city turned the park over. You'd have to use a different saddle to tap the water main for a service. But here, we're in pretty much a fully developed area.
And is there a lot of rock in the,
We have several areas of rock. It's near the sewer trench. I don't know how much of the water trench we would have it, but again, that would be removed a foot below the pipe. The pipe would be bedded on granular material, either the sewer or the water, regardless of the size. And the only other discrepancy between the two water main materials is how you located it. You go out there now, you locate the water pipe, Wes can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's ductile, you're finding that piece of metal in the ground. When the plastic water main's installed, we put a thin copper wire in there and connect that to test stations at the hydrants, and you run a current through that wire. It's can be trickier, but it seems to work, and like I said, that's kind of the way a lot of the industry has gone, is to the plastic.
is there as I look at the alternatives, alternative one, the bidders were all fairly close. Wensel with alternative two was extremely above, your estimate. And is there a reason you think?
I looked through his numbers, and he seemed to have a lot in mobilization on that alternate where the other two didn't. The unit prices for the work were fairly compatible. So I guess if the council were going to move ahead, I wouldn't recommend awarding the alternate two to them. Maybe we could work on a change order with them at a reduced price for that work.
Yeah, alternative one, I'm fine with. It comes in under budget. Alternative two, I would not vote to do that at this time.
Well, my problem is the iron versus the plastic, because you're saving 50,000 on with the plastic. And, I'm looking at you for advice there, if you think it's gonna last as long. And
I've been told it'll probably last longer, although I'm not old enough to tell you that, and none of us here are, but that's the theory, is the plastic pipe is gonna last longer.
Leroy was always big on the plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tom was big on the metal.
Well, the thing is, repairing plastic is gonna be more expensive than the ductile on average. By a fair amount, I believe.
I think the fear is if it's a break that you have to dig, you potentially have more pipe to replace if it's a PVC break.
Right.
Again, I've not encountered a lot of them either way. Most water main breaks we still find is on old cast plate.
Still doesn't happen very often. Either one.
Right.
Right. And presumably, if you're replacing 20 foot of PVC, that will be, the material of it will still be cheaper. See what I'm saying?
Right.
May have to take out more, but I'm in favor of the PVC. I listen to Leroy sometimes.
Did you ask for any public comments or input on that?
Well, does the public have any input? Larry, I know you do.
Joe, I think we can turn the lights on now, please.
I have to say, we had a fear that our bids would come in way over because of the time that we solicited for bids, so it's a relief to see that we're still in position to
Right.
go forward with this, since that's what we determined we wanted
Well,
to
I
do
thought it
this
was a
year.
little late. I did talk to a few local contractors and about Wenzel Construction out of Owatonna. And, like, for example, Darren Anderson, he liked them. You know, they're a smaller contractor, but he's worked with them before, and he said they were good. So I was comfortable with that.
Yeah, we did call on their references. I hadn't personally worked with them, but Owatonna and Faribault both had good things to say about them, and their subs list are.
Dodge City,
typical
a
subs
couple
you'd
of
be
cities down around here that had them and were pleased.
Good.
Okay.
Larry.
Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I'm Larry Dammer. I live on Almond Street. I guess my number one interest here has been the Stoughton Street completion here. That particular block got missed on the first time. It didn't require any water or sewer under it, and I'm sure that's why it wasn't done. But during the time of the construction, there were a lot of construction materials piled on that road for a time there, so that kind of served to, I think, to crack that road to some extent. That road also lies on a hill, goes down the hill. And so anytime you get a crack and you get a little movement in that blacktop, it's going to deteriorate a little faster, I think. Also, I'm told by the neighbor, one of the neighbors, that the delivery trucks have that as a or as a first choice of road for delivery back in our neighborhoods, because they seem to be able to escape a couple of stop signs on Almond Street. So down Grove they come and around Stoughton to the back neighborhoods. It's true. I've watched quite a few of them drive by there. But, so my interest is including that, bottom line. I just have some questions on the project itself. During the time, there was discussion about the width of Minnesota Street. Will that width be maintained?
Yes.
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 There was, okay. And Oak Street, one of the, friend actually had a question about Oak Street. Will that be retained as it is right then, with no widening out to the hills are pretty severe there, and I think to try to do a 32 would be pretty gruesome there. There's no other street dimensions that are going to be changed on this project then, appreciably. They're all the same as what they are.
Well,
Okay.
I think the biggest change will be on the block of Cedar. If you look north of Minnesota now, you'll see in 2013, there's no curb, was no curb there, storm sewer. Now it's a full street width. The block from Minnesota out to the highway does not have curb. It's in pretty rough shape. That'll have the same width going all the way through. So that'll probably be the biggest change visually, but as far as street widths on the rest of them, they'll stay roughly the same.
And I guess, having experienced that construction equipment on that one road, and I think it, served to deteriorate it to some extent. When this project gets going here, I'd be real interested in keeping the materials and stuff off the new project that has already been done, or the project that was done first. Park it someplace else, so let's not rip up what we've just done, is, I guess, what I'm saying there, so.
Greg, is that something we can ask Wenzel to be a little more careful where they're putting their?
Yeah, we'll have that as part of our pre-construction meeting discussion, where they can and can't go. We've told them they could use that angled parking on the east side of the park and some of that area for storage and stuff, because that area is going to get redone anyway. And we will try to guide them to stay north of Minnesota as best we can, because we don't want to have to fix it, or they don't want to have to fix the new streets.
And the last thing I had, I guess, was just the construction material. I happen to reside in a house where the plastic was used and so on. The only difference I can tell, there's a different taste in the water. And I've said to people, I don't know if the taste was because we were using 75-year-old metal pipes before and now it's plastic, I don't know. One of the water people made some indication to me that there is a difference between the metal pipes versus the plastic. So I don't know, you do a little internet research on the metal versus the plastic, that's pretty interesting, if none of you have done that, about how the metal is good for a lot of reasons versus plastic. The cost, of course, is glaring here, but is it the cost, when you have repairs that are gonna happen sooner or more frequently and so on, and be more costly when that's done. And I think, Morris, we experienced one freeze down on the north side. Now, granted, that was not such good construction, but when it was done and when it was repaired, that cost, that was a pretty tidy bill.
Right.
But with the metal, they describe that if you have a connection, for example, you connect it fairly locally on the pipe. Whereas plastic, you've got to be careful about splitting it the length or, how the incompatible materials are assembled. That's what they say. Again, I think that's worth looking at that research. But those are the only things I had. So.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well, I guess my question would be for my fellow council members is, sounds like Cedar and John are into PVC. I like metal. I don't know, Morris, what you and Ken?
Oh, I guess PVC, but I guess.
Well, first of all, I was pleasantly surprised by the bids. The estimates were a lot higher than this. I like that. I have a question on the alternative two, if we should try and work that out later, but, and I'd rather go with PVC.
Yeah, I don't want to do alternative two. I think that's just that bid's too costly.
As for me, between ductile iron and PVC, I'm ambivalent on that. It is a $50,000 savings. But when you look at the overall costs of the base plus alternate one, alternate two, plus whichever we choose of alternate 3 or 4, that's still about $700,000 less than what we were told originally to expect. So
Right.
overall, we're seeing
a good deal.
4.2 originally.
We're in good
Yeah.
shape.
It's a good,
a good savings there.
I was surprised personally.
I guess I would go ahead and go include alternate 2 and then try to get a change order to lower that, and because they're not going to need to do another
Mobilization.
mobilization
Right.
to get that done.
Well, if we award the alternate two, we're awarding their unit prices.
So what we ought to do is hold off on alternate 2 and talk to them.
Right, that's something that.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because that's something we can do after this project. All our big ones are done, and everything after this will be ad hoc things, spots here and there throughout the city, as I understand our long-range plan on that.
Yeah, this is by far the largest piece intact yet to do.
Right.
There's two $1 million projects. One's on North Side and then Park Street.
Yep, park.
Right, but
But in comparison, yeah, they're small.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so we got 3 PVC people here.
Yep.
I think we're all in favor of this. It's just, do we go with 3 or 4 as the alternate?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead with the project with Wenzel Construction, do alternative 1, and go with alternative 4, the PVC pipe, and put alternative 2 on hold or later.
I will second that.
Okay, we've got,
Yeah,
A motion?
I want to get the project done.
Yeah.
Not
Right.
real.
so, any more discussion on this? Anybody?
That's alternatives 1 and 4, right?
Right.
Yep.
If not, we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, we're kind of late in the season,
Oh, yeah, when
and if
is,
something doesn't
right,
quite get done, maybe, you know, it can be worked out in the fall, like leave 2 blocks or
We'll,
leave
that'll
the
be part of our
alternative one
discussion
off
with the
until next
pre-con.
year. We're locked in the price, aren't we?
so when do they have an estimate maybe starting, or?
Well, I'll talk to him tomorrow. We'll get the contracts going and off to him, and then we'll pick a day for a pre-con, and then he comes to that meeting with a schedule, and we can have that discussion. You know, let's maybe have a contingency plan here of maybe we don't do the alley work, but get all the streets done, or we leave these 2 blocks. Should we have an issue with the weather? Traditionally, we've had good weather into October, so, and I know they'd like to start as soon as they can, so.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Greg, could I ask just one quick question? Last year, when we talked about limestone, we were going to be using that special account from MnDOT. Is that still available for that project later, do we know? Or have you heard anything more about that?
I don't know if that one is re-upped this year. You mean that additional local government
Yes.
aid?
Yep.
I have not heard anything about that this year.
Okay.
If we had something like that, then you can go ahead
Yeah,
and do that
was in the
limestone.
neighborhood of 20 or 30,000, I thought.
Yeah,
Actually, a little bit more than that, so.
I thought it was closer to 40
Yeah.
years.
All right, check that out. Okay, resolution 2353, providing for the competitive negotiated sale of general obligation bonds.
The fun part.
Yeah.
Just say that, note that the 4,325,000 number will come down. That needs to be revised to reflect the cost estimates and the decision made on the alternates. So we know that number will come down, but if you go ahead and you want to approve the financing and start the process to have the bond sale in June, you should go ahead and pass that resolution knowing full well that it won't be a $4,325,000 bond issue. The most recent numbers that I talked with George Eilerson about before tonight's decision was closer to the 3.9 million, kind of in that range. So we'll get a full detailed with the actual bid costs, the engineering, contingencies, financing fees. We'll get that, and that's what we'll go to market then, if you pass this resolution.
Yeah. Everything's been, the rates have been low lately. Still.
Rates are still attractive, so it's, I mean, it's.
Well, and our credit rating for a
It's good.
small city is excellent.
Yeah. So that should really, really help. Okay.
Need a motion.
Motion
Motion to approve resolution
20.
2353?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Okay. Approve the municipal advisory service agreement with Northland Security.
There again, this is the fee payable to Northland to process the bond issue itself. And again, recognizing that the amount of the bond sale will come down, I have talked with George too about reducing his fee, which he has. So I think we could still go with the proposal that he submitted with a not-to-exceed number, knowing again that that's going to drop along with the total bond sale.
Is that lump sum of 23,750?
Correct.
Right.
Yep, and that will drop.
I make a motion to approve Northland's processing fee.
I'll second.
Oh, okay, any more discussion? No. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Okay, so now we are at C from above.
I just wanted to pull down
C.
item C. You had a couple candidates for the police commission. I was curious, one of them doesn't live in town. You have to be a resident of Cannon Falls to be on the commission.
So we do have a member on the cable commission that does not live in town.
Right.
And apparently we have in the past, and it hasn't been an issue, so.
So is it kind of ad hoc, depending on which commission it is, whether people can be, because I've run into this, people have asked that about Public Works too.
Yeah, my understanding is that we don't have a guideline restricting that. We did reach out to multiple retired police officers that lived in town, but they weren't interested. It was at that time that the mayor said, oh, let's put 2 on, and even though this one lives out of town, it gives us some more insight. And
we had for a few years on the planning commission, a resident that, was on our planning commission too, so it's not unheard of.
You mean a non-resident?
Right.
He lived outside of the
Okay,
city limits.
instead of resident. Okay.
That satisfactory?
Yep.
To you?
And I brought down I, that was,
Wait,
let's
we
vote on
brought it
this
down, so
item.
now we have to vote on it.
Okay, any
Wanna
other
make a motion?
discussion? Oh, yeah, make a motion.
make a motion to approve the police commission
Okay.
nominees.
Second. And any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Then aye.
Yeah, I brought down, I'll just take a minute. Support the application of the Blandon program for that broadband expansion. I just wanted to mention the planning commission last night through their support toward it. And, I'd like to see the council support it too, because it's a no-brainer.
Right.
I make a motion that we support the application to the Blandon Foundation.
I'll
second it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Landon Group is very, very good.
It's a very respected group.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Okay, with that, do we
Oh.
got anything?
Staff.
Staff reports.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Sam? Joe?
We do have some approved people going door to door that are solicitors. But I want to remind citizens that if anybody comes to your door and seems forceful or doing things that you don't want, you can tell them to leave. If you want to verify if they do have a permit, please ask them. If they don't have some sort of form that is from our city, they are not approved. And feel free to give us a call so that we can check these people out. We haven't had any problems with people being victimized with door-to-door this year, but I just want people to know that there are some out there that have been approved. We've done background checks, but if they don't have their permit with them, give us a call so we can get that taken care of and we can get them permitted and make sure that those are people that we want going door-to-door in town, so. And that's all I have, thanks.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Nothing.
Two things. Last city council meeting, we talked about reestablishing or establishing some parking restrictions on Hoffman, remember? I did receive a call from a resident of the street where we did it on just one side, expressing some dissatisfaction that, what about when vendors come to her home? Like, she has a plumber, she has someone, do they have to park on the far side? What I indicated was, if they're not parked there all day long, it's gonna be fine. Is that, you're not out there just hawkishly ticketing the cable guy, right? I know you can't say that you would never give anyone a ticket, but, okay, I just wanted to reassure everyone, it's not like a hot spot for parking tickets, right? Okay. In any event, so, I think that's gonna be the best that we can do on that, and then, shoot, I had a second thing.
How about this weekend down there with the junk at Public
Oh, the
Works?
19th.
19th. Wes, you want to mention that?
Yeah, we're having a citywide cleanup on the 19th.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right.
This Saturday, actually. It's from 7 to noon. So I guess bring your junk in. We'll unload it for you, I guess.
Is that
With a
it?
nominal fee.
That was it.
Do we,
Wait, weren't we supposed to say something?
yeah, I was trying to think of what it was.
Was it about the mower? No.
No.
Come on. You had everything to say at the meeting. Come on. There was a thing where we're like, we can take care of that
Oh,
tonight.
the dog park they're taking care of. We're
That wasn't
working
it.
on. The trail.
Oh, I know what it was. It was the sewer credit. It was the sewer credit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, oh my goodness. The address is 215 West Main Street, and they had a leak from a burst pipe between the home and the garage, and it resulted in an extravagant bill, approximately $4,000. That's water and sewer. And policy is that we can, if we choose, waive the sewer portion, because the water in this case that leaked out just went into the ground. It never got processed by our sewer plant, so it makes sense. It's not that anyone's out anything. We at Public Works unanimously agreed that a sewer credit would be appropriate in this case. The homeowner is satisfied with that, so I would make a motion to extend a sewer credit in, I think I have an actual amount.
Yeah, 2,400 and.
Right, in the amount of her sewer bill. Or actually, it's not for the entire amount, it brings down to what it would have usually been, what her usual bill is.
Right,
So it doesn't make it zero, it just makes it normal.
Yeah, based on her average.
Right.
So,
right.
And she's still gonna pay the water, which is not nothing, so,
and we've certainly done this before. so,
Right.
We have.
I'll second that motion.
okay.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you,
A nay.
and that's all I
I never
have.
got a break.
You got anything to talk about?
Well, we talked about, one thing at Planning Commission was Dave Roney's working with the county to get more signs on the south end of town. I want to bring that up.
Right.
Dave's gonna work with the county on that, and, people are confused trying to find the caravan and the few of those places out there, and some signage would really help out there. We talked about that last night. Other than, go
I
ahead.
think Sam may have resolved that for us today. There was communication with Kanar Falls Township, and they've indicated a willingness to allow signage to be placed within their right-of-way.
Good.
So we'll continue to work with the property owners in the township to see if we can come up with an exact sign, exact location, but that's going to be very helpful to solving the concern. A lot simpler than what we thought it might be last night. So that's good. Thanks to Kanar Falls
Yeah.
Township.
Thank you.
Side, a couple of things that I'm gonna bring up. May 19th is Armed Forces Day. There's a festivities going on at the Vets Club all day. Put out your flag and give a vet a thank you. And nobody's mentioned Memorial Day. There's a parade at 10:30 and then a ceremony at the cemetery at the Coville Memorial after the parade. I wanted to mention those two things.
Ken?
I think John pretty much brought up everything I wanted to, so.
Yeah. It's a busy night tonight, and a lot of good came out of it, I think, so. With that, do I,
Motion to adjourn.
second?
Second.